Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's call with Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman. During this event, we'll be taking questions from constituents like you. To ask a question, please press star 3 on your telephone keypad to enter the question queue. And during the call, you can also get signed up for the Congresswoman's e-newsletter by pressing star 6 at any time. So again, press star 3 if you have a question to ask, star 6 to subscribe to our newsletter. And with that, I'll turn it over to Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman. Congresswoman, the floor is yours, ma'am.
Well, thank you. And I want to thank everyone for joining this Teletown Hall this evening. As you all know, I'm Bonnie Watson Coleman, and I'm proud to represent the 12th Congressional District in New Jersey. Typically, I try to hold a constituent services fair or a town hall of some kind at least every few months. They're one way that I am able to reach out to you and to hear your concerns as well as your priorities. And they're also an opportunity for you to tell me what you'd like to see me working on here in Congress. I'm holding this Teletown Hall because over the past 2 weeks, my office has received so many calls, emails, Facebook messages, text messages, even old-fashioned letters from concerned folks like yourselves. The sheer volume of outreach from you has been unprecedented and welcome. At least it has been 10 times what we typically see. Many of you called because you were concerned about the arbitrary funding freezes. Many others reached out concerned about Elon Musk's access to your personal information at the Treasury Department, Social Security Administration, and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. Many folks called because of reports that Trump would dismantle the Department of Education and the Department of Labor, putting our kids' futures and our families' livelihoods at risk. And finally, many folks called concerned about Donald Trump's announcement of the U.S. taking over or owning Gaza and potentially expelling the nearly 2 million Palestinians that are living there. These calls are coming from Democrats, Republicans, and independents. Some callers have even said, I didn't vote for you, but I don't like what I'm seeing here in D.C. To all of you who have called in to express your concerns, I thank you. Your words have not fallen on deaf ears. It is helpful to me as your representative to hear from you, so I can better respond to the issues that you care about. I encourage everyone on this call to stay engaged in the coming weeks and months, and to talk to your friends and your family, and encourage them to reach out to their representatives and to share their views as well. On this call, I'm going to address the concerns of many that you have shared over the past few weeks. And I am going to cover a number of subjects. But before I do, I want to ask the moderator, Dirk, to once again explain how people can ask a question tonight, especially on topics that I haven't mentioned yet.
Yes, ma'am. Happy to do that. Basically, there have been a number of people that have just recently joined this call, so thank you for connecting to it. So in order to ask a question during this evening's event, please press star 3 on your telephone keypad to enter the question queue. You can also get signed up for the Congresswoman's e-newsletter by pressing star 6 at any time during this call. Now, if you need help with a specific issue you're having with a federal agency, say a passport issue, the IRS, or a problem accessing your veterans benefits, please reach out to our district office at 609-883-0026. Again, that district office phone number, 609-883-0026, or you can go online to watsoncoleman.house.gov. Again, that's watsoncoleman.house.gov. You can click the services and then help with federal agency. Now, at this time, before we open the floor for the live Q&A portion of the program, I want to begin by asking the Congresswoman a few questions that were submitted in advance. So, Congresswoman, are you ready for the first question?
I am.
Perfect. So the question is, DOGE has gained access to the Treasury Department's payment system, sparking concerns about privacy and misuse of taxpayer data. What can Congress do to protect Americans' personal information from potential breaches of political manipulation?
This is a really important question. We just learned last week that Elon Musk, who's a so-called special federal employee and advisor to the president, who also happened to have given the president hundreds of millions of dollars to his campaign, that he was granted special access to the Treasury's payment systems. And this is very concerning. This system processes nearly 6 trillion payments, including your Social Security, your Medicare, your government salaries, and other critical public services that millions of you rely upon each day. In addition, he has access to personal information about nearly every American, information that had previously been entrusted only to a very small select group of public employees. Giving him this access to this payment system isn't just unethical, it's probably a direct conflict of our laws and possibly uh, something that ethics needs to deal with. You know, Congress has a unique role, but we don't have the ability to file our own court cases. But we have a very active group of 19 state attorneys general, including Matt Platkin from New Jersey, who filed a suit to protect this information, which includes bank details and social security numbers, among other things. The next day, a federal judge issued an order barring all but career employees of Treasury from access. The Trump administration has countered this, trying to regain access for Musk, who I want you to know has no accountability to anyone about anything. And there will be a hearing that is held on Friday. Democrats on the Oversight Committee attempted to subpoena Musk to testify about his actions, but Republicans blocked it because they're in the majority. Musk and Trump have already made moves to dismantle U.S. aid, which helps protect the United States through development efforts abroad. It makes our relationships stronger so that we can rely upon our allies, and it provides needed services and resources, food, medicine, and places that it's so sorely needed. He's also indicated that he wishes to dismantle the Department of Education and the Department of Labor. Now, these departments have tremendous impact on our education, our special education for children, our equal access to education, our jobs, our opportunities to belong to uh, labor groups. This has a tremendous impact on our consumers. It also is a threat to Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is returning something like $21 billion back to people who have been ripped off by predatory banks and practices like those that led up to the 2008 housing crisis and those that will ensue if he is not stopped in this mission. In my oversight role, I've signed on to a number of letters. I've signed on to resolutions. I've signed on to legislation. And I've tried to use every platform that I have to communicate with you directly so that you know that we're standing up and we're fighting with every tool that we have. I recently signed on to a very important piece of legislation, including the Taxpayer Data Protection Act. And I joined folks at a rally at the Department of Labor to defend its ability to protect our workers.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman. Got another question in front of me here for you. It is, given the ongoing threats to Medicare and Medicaid funding, how can we strengthen protections for low-income families and seniors who depend on these programs?
You know, in New Jersey, in the 12th Congressional District alone, there are over 100,000 residents that are on Medicaid or the CHIP program. There are people, a good percentage of those are elderly people in nursing homes, a lot of them suffering from dementia and other things and other kinds of disabilities. And of course, we have lots of low-income families in New Jersey, family care. On January 28th, the Trump administration announced a federal funding freeze across all agencies, which caused a lot of confusion, chaos from the agencies, and it was scary to those of us who were watching. But it was rescinded the next day, and a federal judge has put a hold on this action. In addition, when he took office, President Trump rescinded an executive order from President Biden that would be lowering prescription drug costs for Americans. And so we have a lot of work that we need to do to protect our access to healthcare, access to medical prescriptions, and lowering our costs for living. On January 27th, I did sign a letter to the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services and the Department of Health and Human Services because I needed to get details on how this would impact my district. I'm also an original co-sponsor of a bill that would make the Children's Health Program, CHIP, a permanent program. Currently, it is established by funding as we go. And tomorrow, I will be in an all-day budget committee meeting, which will probably go to sometime maybe close to midnight. And instead of being able to come home to my district and do the visits that I was going to do to the healthcare center and to a child daycare center, I will be here fighting this terrible, horrific budget. The Republicans want to cut support to families with kids and disabilities. They want to cut support to cancer screening. They want to cut support for long-term care. They want to cut and cut and cut all of those programs and resources that support our everyday working families and our poor families, our disabled families, our veterans families, and our elderly. And you know what they want to do that for? Because they want to stockpile money to give $1 trillion worth of tax breaks to the billionaire corporations and the billionaire friends that helped Trump get elected here. And we'll fight that to the last breath.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
But you know what?
And
Let
last
me just
week,
say this, Dirk. Let me just say this. We can do everything we can, but we must remember that this is a government of, by, and for the people. And the power of the people is always more powerful than the people who are in power. So we need you, all of you on this call, to be echoing what you're hearing, what we're talking about, and ensuring that others are paying attention. Because at the end of the day, the things that they are proposing in this administration, they are betraying our middle class families, our working class families, and our needy families. And they're doing this just so that they can make the wealthy wealthier. Thanks, Dirk.
thank you, ma'am. Next question. We learned last week that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are targeting the Department of Education. What does the Department of Education do, and how will cuts to the department or its elimination impact our community?
So the Department of Education supports all of our programs in elementary school, high school, and even in, to some degree, students going through county colleges and other schools and colleges. It ensures that there is equality of education opportunity. It protects our students. It protects our communities. It ensures that people in the most rural districts in our country and people in the most urban districts and suburban and ex-urban all have access to quality education. It supports students who are trying to get an education, a secondary education. And it even supports those who are going through like the county colleges so that they can move on and get a good position in a field that is important to our economy today. So by dismantling the Department of Education, you're dismantling this country's ability to be competitive internationally as we move forward and try to compete in an economy that requires an educated citizenry.
So as we move on to another question we've heard a lot, last week after meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, President Trump said the U.S. is committed to buying and owning the Gaza Strip and forcibly relocating the 2 million Palestinians living there. Congresswoman, where do you stand on this plan?
Well, this is another one of Donald Trump's absurdities. I sometimes don't understand what air he is inhaling or what he might be smoking. First of all, there's no one to buy Gaza from. That's number one. And to be so arrogant as to believe that you can turn this country of human beings, of decent, innocent human beings, into some playground for the rich and for your cronies, that's ludicrous. It tells you that he hasn't a thought that makes any sense on behalf of everyday people and humanity. What he is proposing, because you know he is a white supremacist, damn it, he is proposing an ethnic cleansing. He is not only going to take the people out of Palestine, but he's going to tell other countries of color that they must take them. And he's going to try to threaten those other countries like Jordan and Egypt. He's going to try to threaten them by not giving them the support that the United States gives them if they don't do what he wants to do. Well, damn it, he is not a dictator. He is not God, and he'll not be allowed to do this.
Thank you, Congresswoman. I do want to take a quick detour from these questions. We'll get right back to them and remind everybody we have live Q&A coming up a little bit later in this call. If you got a question you would like to ask your Congresswoman, all you need to do is press *3 on your telephone keypad to enter the question queue. And also don't forget the Congresswoman puts out a very informative e-newsletter. You can get signed up for that by pressing *6 on your telephone keypad to get enrolled. Now let's get back to the questions here, Congresswoman. We've gotten a lot of calls regarding H.R. 722, which would essentially ban access to abortion nationwide. And what are your thoughts on this bill, and how would you protect abortion access in New Jersey?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say that they speak out of both sides of their mouth. Because on the one hand, they talk about this is an issue that each state should deal with directly. And then on the other hand, they talk about, no, we need to create a national ban for abortions. I tell you that I never thought we'd have to be dealing with this issue in 2025. There have been over 26 bills that have been introduced in Congress just this year attacking reproductive rights. There are bills that are being considered that would create problems for people who travel across state lines just to access abortion care. And these bills are so far reaching that they're even having a hard time getting on the floor in Congress. It is good that you live in New Jersey. It is good that the progressive administration in New Jersey has moved to protect your rights to a safe abortion if that is what you need. Abortion is a decision that should come from the person who has to experience it and her family members, and perhaps a doctor who can speak to her about the health impact. But it has no business being in the hands of Republicans. It has no business being in the hands of the Republican majority, and it has no business being in the hands of hypocrites, which is what these Republicans are in DC.
So, Congresswoman, our next question. We've recently seen immigration and customs enforcement agents radically increase actions against New Jersey residents, including searches without warrants and harassing and detaining undocumented residents who haven't a criminal record. Now, what should people know to protect themselves and their neighbors?
We've had a lot of calls about this. We've done a lot of things online about it. We've had conversations. We've done issues on Know Your Rights. We've printed this Know Your Rights information. We recognize that what is happening out there in the streets is just sowing division and xenophobia and creating greater chaos in our communities. We know that ICE has gone above and beyond what it should be doing, and we have to use all of our tools to be able to stop them. This is another issue that requires all voices and all tools on deck. We will not sit back and let innocent immigrants be terrified because this administration chooses to be a very autocratic, despotic administration as opposed to this American dream. Every one of those white guys with all that money, they came from someplace else. Their families came from someplace else. They're all immigrants. And so they need to respect the humanity that these people represent. They need to recognize that this affects our economy. Farmers need them. Pharmaceutical companies need them. Landscapers need them. We need them working in all the areas that they are working, and we're blessed to have them. And so we need to make sure that ICE recognizes its responsibility to treat everybody with humanity and dignity, and that barging into schools and hospitals and arresting people is not what we do, and collecting them and putting them in cages is not what we do. We've been there with the first Trump administration. We're not going back.
Thank you very much. And for everybody that's joined us for this live telephone town hall with Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman, this technology we're using for this event this evening gives you an opportunity to let us know what you're thinking by way of polling. And I've got a question that I'm going to ask, and I would love for you to use your telephone keypad to respond to this question. Here we go with it. Have you or a loved one been directly impacted by the federal spending freeze? If you have, yes, me, press 1. Yes, someone in your family, press 2. No, please press 3. So again, for everybody listening in, please use your telephone keypad to respond to this question. Have you or a loved one been directly impacted by the federal spending freeze? Yes, you have. Go ahead and press 1. Yes, someone in your family has. Go ahead and press 2. No, press 3. I see a number of people are registering their response. Thank you very much for participating in that polling question. And next up, we're going to go to the live Q&A portion we've been talking about, where we'll take callers' questions live. If you have a question you would like to ask, simply press star 3 on your telephone keypad to enter the question queue. Again, star 3 on your telephone keypad will get you into the question queue. So our first question for the Congresswoman, we've got Larry joining us. Larry, you are live on the call. Go ahead with your question, please.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello.
Larry.
Hello? Yeah.
Go ahead with your question.
Okay. Sorry, this is Marlene, Larry's wife. I'm the one with the question, but it's his phone. The reason I call this is I'm concerned about what we can do as regular people, other than call our senators' offices and their representatives' offices, which we've already done. What can we do to get it across to the White House how upset we are about this and how we do not like this?
Well, ma'am, I tell you, a loud voice does get some attention. You can email them. If they don't pick up the phone, you can email them, you can text them. You can use every single solitary platform that you're on, Instagram, X, Blue Sky, Facebook, whatever, and communicate your concerns. You can talk to your neighbors and have them become part of the discussion as well, because what we need to do is to swell the numbers of people who are showing up at the demonstrations, who are using their social media to communicate what they feel about what they're seeing, and to join with those who believe that this America is a place of promise and love and forward moving, and that we'll not be accepting a despot instead of a president. But I know that it's frustrating. I know that you'd like to talk to them, but if you can't talk to them, you can communicate with them in so many other ways.
All right, I've got a quick update here on the poll question. Thank you to everybody that participated. It's so great to see so many people involved in this call. And moments ago, I asked, have you or a loved one been directly impacted by the federal spending freeze? 69% of those that responded said no. 19% said yes, someone in their family. And 12% said they directly were impacted. So thank you, everyone, for taking the time to answer that poll. And let's get back out to another question. We've got Melanie on the line with us now. Melanie, you are live with Congresswoman Watson Coleman. What's your question?
Hi, thank you very much. And as a new resident in New Jersey, I come from Maryland, Jamie Raskin territory. I'm so delighted to be hearing what you have to say tonight, Congresswoman Watson. So thank you very much. My question has to do with the upcoming budget situation. I believe in March, either Congress has to vote to increase the debt ceiling, or there's a government shutdown. And in the past few times, the Democrats have really bailed out the Republicans. At least that's my understanding. I don't know it all. I want to know what your position. I'm curious about your position for the upcoming situation, and the fact that there has been no cooperation between the Republicans and the Democrats, except the Democrats have, I believe, have been trying to, be reasonable. Do you think the Democrats should be bailing the Republicans out this time?
The proposals that the Republicans have made, the cuts that they have proposed, are so damaging to the fundamental quality of health to everyday people. The proposals that they're extending would give 83% of the benefit to 1% of the population, and the rest would be for the rest of us. So that's unfair. Democrats recognize that we're in the minority, Republicans are in the majority, and they must do their job. There is a date certain on March 14th that Republicans have got to do their job to continue spending or to move forward or to do something, or they will cause government to shut down, not Democrats. Republicans have got to deal with us. Tomorrow it begins the budgeting process. We've seen some top lines. There have been directions from to us that will go to the respective committees, which is telling you these appropriations committees that they must hit a certain number. They may have to cut down to a certain number, or they have to move up to a certain level. But the cutting is a floor. It is not a ceiling. There are Republicans who don't think that there's been enough cut in the proposals as it is. So tomorrow we will be debating the budget that is being proposed. We will be debating and making amendments to it. But at the end of the day, you need to understand, we've never encountered anything quite like this before. The horrific impact of this administration's 3+ weeks is unprecedented. The way that they're willing to let people die because they can't get their medicine, die because they can't afford their health care, die because they're not going to give SNAP benefits to children, die because they're not going to put food on the table for people, die because they're not going to have enough housing and shelter for everyone, and die internationally because they're going to cut off all funding to the rest of the world. We're not going to play on that dime. So they better get themselves together and figure out what they're going to do with this majority, because this is their majority.
So I encourage everyone that's joined us on this call to take a moment and get signed up to receive the Congresswoman's e-newsletter. And you can do that very easily right now by pressing *6 on your telephone keypad. Again, the Congresswoman and her staff put out a very informative e-newsletter. You can get signed up to receive it by pressing *6 on your telephone keypad right now. Now it's back to the phones. We're joined by Lisa. Hello, Lisa. Welcome to the call. Go ahead with your question. Hello, Lisa. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead with your question for the Congresswoman, please.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I first off wanted to thank Bonnie Watson-Coleman for supporting actions that fight climate change. And I am very concerned that most of the progress that we've made has been threatened. And I wanted to know, what can we do now? Is there anything that we as ordinary people can do to fight climate change? I know my daughter was directly affected by the fires in California. Fortunately, she was safe, but it was an extremely frightening experience. So I just wanted to put that out there, that climate change is a very serious issue that we have not done enough to do to stop it.
Thank you for that question. That's so important to everyone's liveliness. That's so important to the breathing of air and the drinking of water and living around non-contaminated lands. It really affects Republicans as well as Democrats, but they don't act like it does, because they're willing to dismantle the Environmental Protection Agency. They're willing to let folks drill anywhere they want to drill. Ma'am, this is the same scenario that I've been like sort of sharing throughout this whole thing. It is the voice of the people that will get things moving. We saw that when the administration tried to cut off funds. Immediately, there was a response. Immediately, there was a court response. Immediately, Trump had to walk it back, looking for other ways to do it. Well, it is the same thing for our important programs, like the Department of Education, like the Environmental Protection Agency, like all of the good work that we started working on under the Biden administration on climate change, like the new Green Deal. This is for everyone. We look at the fires in California, not the ones that are up in the hills, the ones that are in neighborhoods. We look at the flooding. We look at the storms. We look at heat and drought where we don't need it. We're not fooling ourselves, and we don't have forever to do something about this. But if we stick together and we raise our voice and we use our platforms and we compel our neighbors, our friends, our coworkers, our not so friends to stay engaged, to show up when there is an opportunity to show up, and to stand up so that there is no drilling in the wrong place. There is no relaxing of the Paris Accord. There is no moving back on climate issues. These affect all of our lives. But in this particular despotic administration, this dictatorship in the making, we have got to recognize that we don't have do-over time. We must do everything that we can now to put a stop to this horrific agenda that is so damaging and dangerous to all of us.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Moving on, we've got Eowyn joining us. I believe I've got that right. Eowyn, you're live. Go ahead with your question.
Hi, my name is Eowyn. I'm an educator here in New Jersey, and I'm really concerned about the recent executive orders trying to control how we teach our children in schools. In particular, the orders trying to control how we talk about race and gender, which are incredibly important issues, particularly here in New Jersey where it's very diverse. What actions can we take to protect our right to control education and treat our students how we see fit here in New Jersey?
So I shall tell you, first of all, that there are several Democratic bills in the hopper that deal with how we teach education, how we are inclusive in our education, how we deal with the issues of gender, of LGBTQ plus, of transgender, of race, of the contributions from all walks of life that make this country great, and it should be a part of our teaching of history in school and public interest and in civics lessons. But we are not in the majority. We're in a minority. So we're going to fight these things out. We're going to try to negotiate as much as we can in the budget discussions, in the appropriation discussions, and in the discussions of that we're going to have that could result in a closure of government. We're going to work with our advocates, our friends, our allies. We're going to do amicus curiae briefs whenever we can because we don't have the capacity to do head-on lawsuits against some of these actions. But we're there, we're in the mix. We know what's at danger. We know our children want to be taught. They need to be taught about their history. They need to be taught about their contribution, their ancestors' contribution to the greatness of this country. We need to understand that we will not be daunted because this administration doesn't want to deal with Black history. We are a part of this history. We're the foundation of this history to some degrees. I am sitting in a building that my ancestors made. So I'm with you. I understand. Hang in there. Talk to other teachers, other educators. Make sure that they're engaged. Make sure they know when there are demonstrations. Make sure they know when there are text exchanges. Make sure they know when there are things that they can sign on to so that this administration recognizes that the power is in the people, not the power in the people who are in power.
If you've got a question that you would like to ask live on this call, please press *3 on your telephone keypad to enter the question queue. And our next question, we've got coming to the line right now, like Toby is joining us. Hello, Toby. Welcome. What is your question?
Yes, I have several questions. A lot of people don't read newspapers. They don't know what's up for votes in the Senate or the House. They should be interested, but they don't look. What and how are the Democrats planning to get attention? Republicans, particularly Donald Trump, says all kinds of stuff, and he's in your face every day on the TV. The Democrats have to get out there some way and get their message across and get the attention to the very important issues that you and others have articulated in this phone call. So it's not only up to the citizens who need to get on social media and write editorials and make their voices heard, but it's also up to our elected officials to show they have a backbone and they're going to get on TV and they're going to say what it takes to bring attention to these critical issues.
Thank you. And you know what? If I in any way suggested that you all should be doing something I'm not doing, I'm sorry. Because I tell you, we are trying to get on every podcast we can get on. We try to be on every platform that we can be on. We try to communicate the way we're communicating tonight. We try to send out weekly updates, what's going on. We try to send out monthly updates, what's going on. We would very much welcome any opportunity to be on Sirius Radio and other even we're even willing to go on Fox because we know we need to show up everywhere. So I don't know why people think that Democrats aren't frontlining all of this. I can assure you that the colleagues that I talk to are out there every day somewhere trying to do a visit to an entity that might be impacted, whether it's your healthcare center or a school or a veterans program or things of that nature. We're trying to be on anyone's podcast that will invite us, anyone's radio program that will invite us, any television program that will invite us. We are working as hard as I've ever seen us work to try to get the message out to people. And we see that it is taking, and there is an uptick. We look around and we see on television that there's a demonstration in more than one state at any given time behind one of these issues that have come through executive orders from Donald Trump or Elon Musk in the last 3.5 weeks. We're seeing people show up and protest, and that's a good thing because this is not a moment, ma'am. This is a movement that we have to create. This is a movement that takes strategizing. We know that there are three things that we have to do. We have to legislate, we have to litigate, and we have to mobilize. And we are trying to do all of those things because we recognize that Republicans are ripping off America and that they are doing everything they can to make the wealthy very wealthy and not doing a doggone thing to lower the cost of living and making sure that other people have the things that they need in order to enjoy a healthy life. So I assure you, if you turn on the radio, if you turn on a podcast, if you open up any one of your platforms, you will see something from us. And if you still don't think that it's enough, you call me back and let me know.
It's Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman giving it to you straight this evening during this live telephone town hall. And it looks like next up we've got an anonymous caller from Dayton. And I understand why they're anonymous. They're a federal employee. So hello there. Can you hear me? The anonymous? Hello. Yes. Anonymous caller, go right ahead with your question for the Congresswoman.
Yeah, so my question was, right now a lot of us are scared. We're feeling very uncertain. And, by and large, we're hard workers and we're really proud of our service to the country. What I'd like to know is what are Democrats doing to help support federal employees? And additional to that, sort of get the message out to the public that we are not the enemies of the people. That, again, we go to work every day and we just want to do the best we can for the American public.
First of all, I have been a public employee and I worked very hard for the state of New Jersey for many years. I respect what you do. I respect the fact that we have a majority of workforce of everyday professionals who have taken an oath to do their job and to do it authentically and honestly. We were out there at a rally just last week for public employees. We were on the steps of the Department of Labor. We have engaged in discussions with our allies. We've joined with amicus curiae legislation to protect workers. The judge has stopped the elimination of people from the system. There are pieces of legislation that are whirling around in our hopper right now to get some accountability, to slow what Elon Musk is doing. He has no right in this space. He has absolutely no right in this space. And his being in this space and every other space that he's in with Doge is a conflict of interest because the only thing he's trying to do is to eliminate all regulatory oversight so that he could put more money in his pockets and that he would not have to answer to things that make sure that what his products are safe for our use. So I tell you, we will continue to hold hearings. Oversight has been very engaged. We have been out there in the field. We have been out there at the rallies, and we are pushing legislation and resolutions and sending letters and asking questions. You've got people fighting for you because we know how important you are to the well-being of this country.
Next up, we're joined by Marco in Princeton. Marco, you were live with Congresswoman Watson Coleman.
Hi,
Hi.
Congresswoman Watson Coleman. Thank you very much for your service, and we're lucky to have you. I have a question, but I want to make a statement before that because what Toby said, what she asked, really struck a chord with me. And if I want to be very frank with you, we're not doing enough as Democrats compared to the Republicans. The Republicans have all the young people, in social media and other places, and I'll bet there's not any Gen Xers on this call, or very few. And that's how we lost the election. And we have to improve somehow. And, maybe by additional blogs or whatever. But that's not my question. I just wanted to make that statement. My question is, I'm a cancer researcher.
Very much.
What's that?
I said, I appreciate that point very much. We recognize that we left bodies on the ground.
Yeah, we have to be objective about ourselves and what we can do better. So I'm a cancer researcher for 35 years, and I've done that work, and my heart is broken because with immigration, like you mentioned, and with the funding of the federal government, we are the leader in medical research in the world, and I don't understand why we want to throw that away. And I was wondering what steps are being taken to restore the NIH funding and the funding to universities, which is critical for patients undergoing cancer therapy now in trials, Alzheimer's disease, neurological diseases, all these things where people are dying and are in need of new therapies. What are we doing about that? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the work that you've been doing because NIH has been very important to our well-being and the healthiness of our people. And what they're proposing will obviously result in fewer groundbreaking research, and create greater health risks to us. We've engaged with lawsuits that have been filed to support the funding for cancer research for children and other things. We have used our voice inside of Congress. We tried to communicate external to Congress about what's happening. We're fighting very hard to ensure that we have the same edge, that we do not concede to China, that they become the world champions. This country has resulted in the saving of lives, billions of lives for centuries across this world, and we're not going to give that up. And I, like you, don't understand why they think that it's a good thing to give up unless they're buying up the pharmaceutical companies in China and want to make more money, because it makes no sense. It's heartbreaking and it's dangerous.
And our next caller with a question
Let me clear up a comment that the gentleman before spoke about our not having won this election. When I said, yeah, we left a lot of bodies on the ground. What I meant by that is that we recognize that we should have been on the ground more, talking to people more, making sure that they could feel us, hear us, see us, watch us, listen to us, and that we could talk to them about what we're doing. and we spend too much money on television and without a sufficient return on that very poor investment.
Thank you, Congresswoman, for diving deeper on that and explaining. Next caller, we've got Lion in Ewing. Lion, you are live. Go ahead now.
Hi, thank you for having me on for this question. My name is Leon. I'm from Ewing, New Jersey. So my question kind of has like two parts to it. So I've noticed that we've been very reactionary, to what, Trump, and his cronies, are doing. But we don't focus on what our vision, for America is. Like, what do you consider, the vision for America, Democrats' vision for America? And does that include rebuilding the administrative state, because it's being torn down, as we speak? And are we going to just rebuild it, or are we going to make that better? And can that be part of our vision, for America moving forward? Thank you.
Thank you, Leon, and you live in my hometown. Contrary to Kamala Harris not winning that election, she very much spoke to her vision for America, that there would be housing for those who need it. There would be sufficient for food for those who need it. It would be affordable access to healthcare, to education, to opportunities. It would be jobs that would be paying good wages and good benefits. It would be safety and security in our communities. It would be better relationships between law enforcement and everyday people. It would be a place where you could send your child to school and he or she would get the best education ever. And then we'd move that child on to post-secondary education, whatever that might be. And it would be a place that you could afford to live. It would be a place where we valued love and humanity, and a place where we work together and recognize that the beauty of this country is the diversity of people in it. That's what makes America, America.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman. And it looks like we have time for one more question. And for that, we're heading out to South Brunswick, and we've got Dottie on the line with us. Go ahead with your question, please.
Hi, thank you. I want to say how much I appreciate you taking the time to hold this teleconference. It's really important. And one of the things that's been weighing on my most lately is the threat that Donald Trump will not listen to the courts as they're suppressing his executive orders. And what is our party's plan for if and when that happens? Like, what can we do about that?
Well, we're gonna hope that the courts do what they have the capacity to do, and that is to enforce their mandates and to hold people accountable through the judicial system if they are not. Now, I recognize we've got a big challenge here because we're getting ready to compromise the integrity of our judicial system with all the felonious appointments that the president is making, not only to the Department of Justice, but to everyone. I mean, you look at all of his cabinet, a bunch of either felonies or just incompetence. And so this is a constitutional standoff here, and we're going to see whether or not the courts are going to use this opportunity to do what they're constitutionally required to do, and that is to enforce. And so, ma'am, we're here just like you are, wondering what the next step is going to be, because he's already been held in violation of one of the mandates, and we need to see where this judicial branch is going to take that.
So, Congresswoman, as I mentioned, that's the time we've got for the final question there. I want to make sure that we leave a little bit of time here for you to provide us some closing remarks, please.
Well, first of all, I need to thank everyone for taking the time to be on the call tonight and for thinking about your concerns and expressing them and sharing them with me and letting me know what you expect of me. This is an unprecedented time, and I try very hard to pray my way through every day so that I can come out with the attitude that I can make a difference. I am here because you've elected me to stand up for what you believe is important as an American in America. But I can't do it alone. And I keep reminding people this is a government of by and for the people. And that's not just rhetoric. And the power rests with the people. And if not like ever before, we need to ensure that we're staying engaged, we're staying alert, we're staying armed with information and a willingness to even uh, enter into uh, an area of, well, peaceful protest by joining demonstrations. It's going to take all of us. We are working so hard in Congress. I tell you, we've got meetings day in, day out talking about what is a new tool that we can use to communicate. What is it that we can do to compel people to pay attention and to understand that this is not rhetoric on their part. This is unaccountable kleptocracy almost. And that is something that our forefathers rejected when they fought to create this great country. I know that I wasn't part of their thought at the time, but I'm part of their thought now because of the Constitution. And together, we can put a stop to it. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for participating in this. And I ask you, if you're a praying person, please think about putting me in your prayers. I really appreciate them. God bless you, and thanks again. And thanks, Dirk.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman, for your insights and candor this evening. We do all appreciate that. And thank you to your staff for putting this live telephone town hall together. So for everyone that's joined us for Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman's event, thank you for taking the time. A quick reminder, our phone number at our district office is 609-883-0026. So again, if you've got questions or concerns, please call our district office at 609-883-0026, or you can go online to watsoncoleman.house.gov. Now, if you haven't spoken to a member of our team yet about subscribing to the Congresswoman's e-newsletter, simply stay on the line, and at the sound of the tone, spell out your name and email address slowly, and we'll get you signed up to receive that e-newsletter. Thanks again, everyone, for your time. We hope you have a fantastic night. Goodbye.